What's going on, Guardians? It's Tizzle here, and in this video I wanted to talk to you about how to survive in endgame content. Over the past few seasons, I've been doing LFG runs of Grandmasters, and I see teammates dying all the time. Just last week I ran a Birthplace of the Vile with some people from Fireteam Finder, and they were dying quite a bit. Now, I have soloed lots of GMs and dungeons, so I want to impart some wisdom on you in hopes that it will help you survive in these activities. Last season, I was running Devil's Lair with my buddy Steam. I've played Destiny with him since D1 launch. He drifts in and out of Destiny 2 every once in a while, where I have played D2 non-stop since it came out. So we were running Devil's Lair and he was on Divinity. This is obviously really nice for stunning the overloads, and I was using the Lament as I like to play aggressively when I have a team. But I noticed he was stunning the overloads at really bad times. Now, no shade to him, we talked about it during the strike, but this is when I first noticed the biggest mistake that many people make in GMs. And honestly, this one trick will literally help you survive way more in endgame content, and that is add priority. I never noticed how aware I was of what adds to target in a given encounter until I started playing with LFG teammates. I noticed them dying to targets that they should take out before engaging with other enemies. And most of what I talk about in this video will circle back to that concept. So let's look at the Protect the Ghost room in Devil's Lair. Once you sort of enter the room, ideally with the Barrier Knight killed, there are two Vandals up on the balcony that need to be dealt with. In old GMs, before the damage resistance changes, these guys would one-shot you. But now, at least they won't outright kill you, they'll just leave you one shot. Now, you should have Hive and Fallen battling each other down low. This is great as it takes aggro off you. So leave those enemies down low to fight each other. The first thing you should be doing is killing those Vandals in the back, because they can easily snipe you and deal a ton of damage. Once they are down, you have a safe place to pick away the rest of the adds. You have cover you can utilize where you won't get shot, and the only enemies that could hit you there are now dead. So back to my buddy Steam. We were in this room and he was putting div on the overloads when a ton of other adds were up. I think many players think that champions have to be dealt with immediately, but it's almost the opposite. The more you play in high-end content, the more you learn to manipulate champions. They're actually usually quite easy to deal with once you know the AI and how each one attacks. So me being on Lament, if the overload was stunned, that would mean I would have to rush in to deal damage to the overload captain. Well, this is extremely dangerous if other adds are up, as I will not be behind cover. Sadly, I wasn't recording when I was playing with him, but I have lots of solo footage for you to see the proper sequence of how to deal with these adds safely. In many situations, it's best to leave the champion up as the last add, especially with overloads, because they require constant attention because they will regen their health if you don't keep them overloaded. So if you have adds up, then they will shoot you and kill you while you are trying to take down the overload. It is what makes Birthplace of the Vile boss room such a pain in the ass when you're solo, because on top of all this, the boss spawns in immunity totems. But in Birthplace, the priority is 1000% the overload. That is because it is a chieftain, so it too will spawn immunity totems. So we have two different Nightfalls, but in one, you can leave the champion till last, but in the other, the champion has to be dealt with ASAP because it is a huge threat and can easily wipe your whole team. So experience, practice, and understanding the encounter will help you figure out which adds to prioritize. So speaking of Birthplace of the Vile, this brings me to another great point about how to not die in endgame content, and that's to learn enemy spawns and spawn kill enemies. Knowing where they spawn will help you know where you need to be. Positioning is obviously another huge part to surviving, but if you don't know where the adds are, you don't know where to stand. So in Birthplace of the Vile, I used like 5 different builds, all of which were great at spawn killing adds. I could suspend them with my Suspend Titan, freeze them with Duskfields on Hunter with Renewal Grasps, suspend them on Hunter, blow them up with a rocket, use a Consecration melee on Titan, freeze them all with Verglass Curve Crystals, and slow them with Bleak Watchers. There's many ways to handle groups of spawning adds, but here's the thing. Once they leave the spawn, they spread out and they're much harder to deal with. What is easier, using one ability to take out like 10 adds at once, or hiding and using cover and taking out an add one by one with a hand cannon? I guarantee spawn killing it with an ability is the way to go. And like I said, there are many options here, so you have to craft your loadout for the strike. Ignitions are amazing in Battlegrounds because there are a shit ton of adds, but you can also often shoot them from a distance with Polaris Lance to cause an ignition. In the Birthplace of the Vile room, it is a lot harder to trigger a quick ignition. So if we look at the Moon Battleground, every time I dunk a charge, adds would spawn. So I made sure that I had a solar grenade to throw on their spawn. This would kill most of them and then damage the rest. Then I could take them out with my machine gun or whatever. Then only the Scorn Chieftains were on the field. at which point I could safely take them out 1v1 without having to worry about stalker grenades or anything else. At this point, you just have to deal with one target and not getting hit by the boss. Pretty easy. But if you try and engage the chieftain before the enemies are all dead, you have a way higher risk of dying. Another great example is the elevator in the Corrupted Strike. It is so easy to take out the adds as they spawn in, especially in a fire team. You could shoot one tether and take them out quickly. Consecration messes them up. There are lots of ways. Point is, they need to die quickly, especially solo, because taken scions duplicate. So 1 turns into 2, and 2 into 4, and pretty quickly, 4 scions shooting at you in a GM means game over. Even though they seem pretty non-threatening normally, but when lots are shooting at you at once, it's dangerous. Also, the boss type enemies spawn in shortly after them. So if it is just like 3 on the field, then you can hopefully use your movement to avoid them and get 1 or 2 dead, and then you're good. But if you're still having to deal with scions when the bosses are on the field also shooting at you, then that is a lot to juggle and you're probably going to die. And that leads us neatly into my next point. So target prioritization is key, but say you identified the right target, you still have to kill them, and in some cases, you need to do so quickly. When there are 3 bosses roaming the elevator in the Corrupted, that is dangerous. You have to keep track of all 3 and avoid their attacks or you're dead. And you also have the taken thing in the middle that swirls around and it too will kill you. So certain targets you need to melt fast. So in this situation, once their shields are down, either use a super to burn one enemy quickly or your heavy ammo. Super and heavy management are crucially important. If you watch any of my solo flawless GMs, you may notice I am always cognizant of the ammo I have on the ground. If you have a rocket and it holds 7 shots and there is a regular heavy brick and you have a scavenger mod on, that brick will give you 3 rockets. So don't pick it up until you have 4 shots or less. Unless, of course, all the enemies are dead and you are leaving the area. But other than that, utilize your heavy smartly. So if there are 3 enemies on the elevator, I will use my heavy usually to burn 1 down very quickly. Then I only have 2 threats to deal with. From there, I will get the next one down as quickly as I can. Sometimes using heavy, but if it's safe, I might not. Once I am down to 1, they really aren't much of a threat. You can easily avoid their attacks without having to worry about it killing you. So I would recommend using a primary and just chipping it down to conserve ammo. If you have a ton of ammo on the ground, then sure, melt it quickly and move on with the strike. But if you are ever in a situation where there is just 1 target on the field, don't waste heavy on it. It is better to take your time and conserve that heavy to use it at a time when you actually need it. There are some situations where you do have to burn a champion or a bunch of dangerous adds really quickly, so that is where you want to utilize your heavy. At the end of Birthplace of the Vile, that final phase is a bitch, because it spawns raiders and those assholes like to go underground and be immune. So spawn killing them is absolutely crucial. In one of my solo clears, you can see me burn through rockets to take them out quickly. Add the ammo, so I wasn't messing around with them. They are your biggest threat at that moment, and they spawn about 7 waves. So once all the adds are dead, then you are home free to whittle the boss down. If you are trying for a speed run, then you want to use the heavy on the boss to finish quicker, but if you're just trying to get a clear, just use your heavy on the adds. The boss is not much of a threat once all the enemies are down. So ammo management is another crucial aspect to not dying, and I kinda touched on it, but so is your super management. I died twice at the end of the Corrupted because I used my super too early. I used it on the first wave of captains, so then when the second wave comes, I had to use rockets. But these assholes blink around. So I missed and I died. So then on my third run, what did I do? I saved my super for the last set of captains. The reason this matters is because with the first wave, the boss is less aggressive, so it is easier to take out the captains without having to worry about the boss. But on the final phase, the boss can sneak up on you quickly and kill you while you are trying to kill the captains. Maybe it's a skill issue, but I will say I beat it the first time when I changed my strategy to hold onto my super to the end. So it definitely works. So let's recap. We have add priority as number 1. Knowing which enemies to kill first because they are the greatest threat to you is crucial for not dying. There is an orange bar sniper in the back of the Devil's Lair strike. All the enemies you can hide from and take out later, but he can snipe you from this perch, so deal with him first. There are countless examples in the game, but this is a good one to drive the point home. Next, learning enemy spawn points and spawn killing enemies. If you don't know where enemies are coming from, then they can catch you off guard and kill you. And if you let them spawn in and spread out, they are much harder to deal with. Watch any raid speedrun and the guys are always spawn killing the adds as they come in. That is when they are the easiest to take out and they are often grouped up as well. So one rocket can take out a bunch when they are together, where you'd have to shoot like 5 rockets on those same adds if you let them spread out. And we know that is really bad because we talked about ammo management. You want to use your heavy at the most opportune time, on the enemies that are the biggest threat and have to be dealt with quickly in order to survive. And same goes with the super. Don't Nova Bomb a single captain when there's no other adds around. But when you need to get a champion down quickly, like in Birthplace of the Vile boss room, that is the time to go all out and deal with the threats before more spawn in. I didn't really talk much about positioning or manipulating enemy AI, but those are also really good tips. Obviously you want to use cover to your advantage, but you can also manipulate adds in various ways. This just comes with practice and familiarity with enemies like champions. I talk about that more in this video, so if you want even more helpful advice, check that out. And if you want to know how to straight up avoid enemy fire, then check out my buddy Armin GT's video on the topic. The guy is an expert at dealing damage while avoiding being hit. He explains everything far better than I ever could, so be sure to check out that video too. Between this video and those two, if you apply the lessons learned in those videos, I 100% guarantee that you will die less in things like Grandmasters. I've been wanting to make this video for like over a year now, so I'm happy I finally got it out. If you're still watching, then thanks so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. And if you want more helpful Destiny 2 content, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Thanks for watching, and good luck staying alive out there. Take care.